The clink of champagne glasses fills the air. But beneath the sparkle, tension simmers quietly. The scent of fresh avocado mingles with sharp citrus. Yet it can't mask the cold sting in my mom's voice. She leans forward, smirking like she's delivering a verdict. "You're lucky we even include you." How do you respond when your family's version of love sounds more like a sentence? When every compliment feels like a subtle cut, and invisible chains weigh down your heart? Can winning at work, building your own empire, ever erase the emptiness left by years of neglect? This wasn't just brunch. It was a battlefield, a place where old wounds whispered louder than the laughter around the table. My name's Morgan Blake, 35. I'm a tech entrepreneur, but I once carried the heavy burden of my family's impossible expectations. A family who made me feel like an outsider in my own home. Growing up in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, our 5-bedroom Victorian townhouse looked perfect to the world. Manicured lawns, iced lattes on the porch, the kind of luxury that makes you think everything's fine. But inside, the air was thick with coldness. My mom, Elaine, painted my childhood room pale blue because green was not appropriate. That room? It felt like my own little prison. I kept my grades flawless, joined every honor society, and led the debate team. Yet all my accomplishments were invisible. My brother Nathan? Average at best, but he basked in praise reserved for prodigies. At my high school graduation, as I delivered my valedictorian speech, my dad, Richard, barely looked up from his BlackBerry. Later, my mom criticized my department store dress. "We expect excellence from you, Morgan," my dad would say, brushing off every award. "Nathan needs more encouragement. He's not naturally gifted like you." That backhanded praise became the wall between us, justifying the emotional distance that stayed long after I left home. Last Saturday, when they invited me to brunch, the same old script played out between the mimosas and avocado toast. "You're lucky we even include you." I smiled, sipped my iced latte, and let it pass. But that night, I took control. I disabled every family credit account under my name and emailed my lawyer about selling the lake house. This is my story, not just about escaping emotional neglect, but about reclaiming my worth, on my own terms. Because sometimes, love is not what you're given. It's what you decide to accept or refuse. Have you ever had to stand up to family who underestimated your value? If you listen closely, maybe you'll hear the whispers of your own strength, just beneath the surface. The crisp November air stung Morgan's skin as she stood frozen by the frosted window of the lake house. Outside, the rustle of dry leaves mixed with the faint scent of wood smoke. Inside, her mom's low voice drifted through the thin walls, soft but sharp. Each word was a mix of praise and blame, wrapped in bitterness and something unspoken. It gnawed at Morgan's heart, half love, half condemnation, just beyond reach but impossible to ignore. The warm glow from the fireplace flickered, but it couldn't soften the chill settling deep inside her. In that moment, Morgan knew one thing with chilling clarity. Everything was about to change. Nothing would ever be the same again. Morgan Blake's family wasn't just privileged, they were legendary. Her dad built Richard Wilson Enterprises from nothing, turning it into a commercial real estate empire stretching across 3 states. Her mom, once a Virginia beauty queen, saw their social standing as a ladder, one she climbed with a dazzling smile but cold intent. The lake house on Lake Champlain was their public mask, a 6-bedroom postcard of perfect weekends. But perfect meant her dad glued to his laptop, her mom lost in phone calls about parties, and Morgan left alone with nothing but the gentle lap of water against the dock. Nathan, her brother, was the favored star, the one with the natural charm everyone loved. Morgan? She was the quiet outlier, smart but invisible, a shadow in the family spotlight. This wasn't some abstract pain. Morgan grew up overhearing whispers that cut like knives. "Charmaine is smart," her mom said once, "but she lacks social grace." Nathan, average at best, was showered with praise and handouts. Morgan's achievements and her full MIT scholarship felt like disappointments, almost unwelcome. "We could have paid for that," her dad said once, as if her success shrank the importance of their millions. Meanwhile, Nathan coasted through college on family money and effortless charm. But Morgan wasn't just surviving. She was mastering the game her family played. In college, her programming skills met her sharp financial instincts. She built a stock prediction algorithm for a class project, attracting real investment firms. By graduation, her scholarship stipend had grown into a modest portfolio. All earned, all hers. But family money came with a twist. When Nathan blew $40,000 trading penny stocks on a reckless impulse, her dad turned to Morgan. "Keep an eye on things," he said with a glance that said more than words. Morgan's grip tightened around the icy glass. Was this her chance to finally step out of Nathan's shadow and the family's suffocating hold? Or was it the trap she had been warned about all along? As her mom's voice rose in the other room again, Morgan blew out a long breath and whispered to herself, "This time, I'm done playing their game." This vague request devolved into me becoming the unofficial family financial advisor by my late 20s. I established trusts, managed investment accounts, optimized their tax strategies, and digitized their entire financial infrastructure. I automated bill payments for their properties, created secure access systems for their accounts, and built redundancies that only I fully understood, all while building my own career at a financial software firm where I eventually became senior developer. My own apartment in Cambridge remained deliberately modest despite my growing personal wealth. A 2-bedroom condo with industrial-style furnishings and walls lined with books became my true home. There, friends like Sophia and Jordan who knew my real self would gather for wine nights and honest conversations. In this chosen family, I found genuine connections my biological family never provided. Yet, I maintained contact with my parents and brother out of some stubborn hope that eventually they would see me, really see me. Each birthday dinner, holiday gathering, and family event reopened wounds that never fully healed. I kept returning, managing their money, offering expertise they simultaneously relied on and dismissed. Charmaine has her little computer job. My mom would tell her friends at charity galas where I occasionally appeared. We are so proud she found something that suits her analytical mind. She would pat my hand while delivering these diminishing comments, making any objection seem oversensitive. My father maintained emotional distance through work obsession. His rare direct communications came through texts asking for financial guidance or help with technological issues. Nathan, following the path cleared for him, joined our father in business despite lacking aptitude. His position as Vice President of Development existed in title only while junior employees handled his responsibilities. Morgan Blake sat at her cluttered desk, tension swirling as rain tapped softly on the window pane, carrying the faint, earthy scent of a fresh storm. Her laptop hummed steadily, casting a cold glow on her face as she scrolled through the family's transaction logs. With every number she scanned, a knot tightened deep in her chest. Fear mingled with disbelief. Then, a sudden creak from the living room froze her, the kind of sound that made you question if it was the wind, or something else. For years, Morgan had been the silent architect behind the scenes. She controlled every password, every account, every automated payment threading through her family's multi-million-dollar empire. Yet, the very people who depended on her dismissed her like a ghost. To them, she was the quiet one, the girl with the analytical mind, stuck in a little computer job. But behind closed doors, she managed fortunes, while their hollow approval weighed on her like a chain. Now, buried in the data, she uncovered Nathan's secret. Nearly $80,000 vanished from his trust fund, withdrawn in shadowed trips to the Mohegan Sun Casino. Hidden credit cards piled debt as his gambling spiraled further out of control. Her parents, lost in their own denial, brushed off his shaky excuses as the fallout from his messy divorce. Morgan knew better. But revealing the truth meant shattering their fragile illusion. Keeping it meant becoming part of the lie. And as if that wasn't enough, the parents had plans to gut the Vermont Lake House, the place Morgan's grandmother had treasured, turning the library she'd inherited into a meaningless space. Saturday night, weighed down by these storms inside and out, Morgan prepared for a war disguised as brunch. She chose a charcoal-gray dress, sharp and neutral, perfect to meet her mom's sharp gaze and veiled dismissals. Would this facade hold? Could she find the voice to finally break free from the family script written without her consent? Morgan took a steady breath. The clock ticked down, and then, as her phone buzzed with a new message, a simple, cold text confirming Saturday's brunch, she knew this meal would be more than just awkward small talk. It was the battlefield where her story would either fracture or be rewritten. She glanced back to the screen, the digital map of her family's secrets glaring at her. Somewhere in the shadows of their polished lives, the truth was waiting. But was she ready to face what it meant? For all of them? The quiet clicking of her keyboard was suddenly swallowed by silence. The house seemed different now, full of unseen eyes waiting and listening. Morgan Blake rehearsed neutral topics in her head. She drew invisible lines around what parts of her life she'd share. Saturday morning was bright, full of spring sun, but inside, she felt stormy. Driving her modest Audi through the neat streets of Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, she headed to Maison Bleu, a sleek French bistro her mom picked for its prestige. The restaurant sat in a shiny strip of the suburb's most upscale block, windows stretching wide like eyes craving attention. Morgan arrived to find her family already gathered. Her dad looked picture-perfect in a tailored navy suit, silver hair sharp as ever. Mom's pearls gleamed against an ivory linen dress, her blonde highlights fresh and flawless. Nathan, her brother, looked worn, pale shadows under his eyes, a nervous shake barely hidden as he scrolled through his phone. "Morgan, darling, 15 minutes early is on time," Mom said crisply as Morgan slid into her seat. She wasn't early, exactly on time, but the jab set the tone without a need for more words. The waiter came quickly. "Welcome to Maison Bleu. May I start your table with mimosas?" Dad announced before anyone could answer. Morgan said quietly, "Sparkling water with lemon and iced latte." No one needed to guess why she avoided alcohol. Mom rolled her eyes like it was just part of her routine defiance. Around them, the contrast was striking. At a nearby table, a dad listened, really listened, to his teenage daughter. An older couple held hands silently, completely present. The warmth in those tiny moments made Morgan's family feel colder, more staged. When the waiter returned with their drinks and took breakfast orders, Mom criticized Morgan's predictable choice, avocado toast, while praising Nathan's steak and eggs, ignoring the way he swayed slightly in his seat. The conversation moved stiffly. Polished words floated under the soft glow of Maison Bleu's chandeliers, but the ease was all illusion. Morgan's phone buzzed quietly on the table. She glanced down. A message. A photo. Her father, unsteady and vulnerable, captured mere hours ago. A raw, shaky truth no one dared mention. Her carefully constructed world cracked. Was this the perfect family? Had she been playing a role in a story that wasn't hers? The questions hit her like the sudden scent of rain on warm pavement, familiar but disruptive. The past, the image of her father's hidden struggle, collided with the present's polished facade. Everything she'd believed about strength, love, and worth suddenly felt uncertain. Can you trust the mask your family wears? Morgan felt the weight of years, expectations that never fit, emotional neglect woven into golden threads. But maybe this was the moment to stop pretending, to break free, to find her own truth beneath their perfect picture. The table remained silent, the clinking of glasses like a distant pulse. Morgan's heart raced. Could she look her family in the eye and name the cracks? Or would silence keep the lie intact? The answer hung in the air, heavy like the hush before a storm breaks. For business purposes, he wanted higher withdrawal limits to fund his gambling. I realized before I could respond, our food arrived temporarily. Pausing the conversation, I noticed my mom exchange glances with my father, some unspoken communication passing between them. "Charmaine," my mom began after the server departed, her voice taking on the syrupy quality that always preceded her most cutting remarks. "We have been discussing your role in family matters." My father cleared his throat. "Your expertise has been valuable, but Nathan is taking a more active interest in the financial aspects of the business." Translation: They wanted to reduce my visibility into accounts to hide Nathan's problems. "I see," I replied, cutting my avocado toast into precise triangles. "That would require significant transitions. The systems are complex." "You always complicate things, my mom. Nathan has a financial advisor from Goldman Sachs now. Much more professional arrangement." I knew this was a lie. No professional would approve Nathan's current financial behavior. The brunch continued with mounting tension, leading inexorably toward the moment that would finally break my long-suffering patience. The pivotal moment arrived as our plates were cleared. A family with young children was seated nearby, their genuine affection for each other painfully apparent. The father helped his daughter cut her pancakes while the mom listened intently to their son's animated story. My mom noticed my observation. "Some people are naturally suited for family life," she remarked pointedly. "It requires a certain warmth and flexibility." I sipped my now lukewarm iced latte, saying nothing. "We are meeting with the interior designer for the lake house renovations on Tuesday." My father announced, checking emails on his phone. "The contractor estimates completion by July." "I would prefer if my designated space remained intact," I said quietly but firmly. "Grandmother Elise specifically wanted me to have that library." Nathan snorted. "You and those books? We need space people will actually use." "I use it," I countered. "I work remotely from there when maintaining the family accounts." "About those accounts," my mom interjected, "we feel it would be best if you transferred everything to Nathan's new financial team. It is inappropriate for you to have such access to family matters when you are so removed from our daily lives." The insinuation was clear. After years of managing their financial affairs without compensation or appreciation, I was being pushed aside because I might discover Nathan's gambling problem or object to their renovation plans. "Is my involvement in family finances causing problems?" I asked directly. My father finally looked up from his phone. "We simply think clearer boundaries would benefit everyone. Your technical skills were useful during the digital transition, but professional management makes more sense now." Professional management. I repeated through Nathan's connection. My brother shifted uncomfortably. "My guy is top tier. Harvard Business School? A blatant lie." I maintained my composure, though internally my thoughts raced. They wanted to remove my access because I knew too much, not because they had better options. "Well," I said carefully, "transferring the systems would require significant documentation. The security protocols are intricate. You always make everything so complicated," my mom sighed dramatically. "This is exactly why family gatherings are so tense. Your constant need to assert control." "I do not need to assert control," I replied. "I designed the systems you all rely on. Transitioning requires proper procedures." My mom placed her napkin on the table and delivered the line that would change everything. Leaning forward with a smirk playing at her lips, she said, "You know, Charmaine, you are lucky we even include you in family matters at all. Pity goes a long way. Most people would have given up trying to integrate someone so difficult." The restaurant buzz dimmed, the clinking of cutlery fading into a dull hum. Morgan Blake's heart hammered, heavy, cold, like a stone sinking deep in her chest. Her mom's words hung in the air, sharp, like a dare thrown across the table, the scent of iced latte mixed with the clean smell of polished wood. Morgan's dad didn't look up, fingers scrolling silently on his phone. His silence felt like a verdict. Cold. Final. Nathan shifted nervously beside her, throwing a quick glance around as if everyone could hear the accusation. Morgan met her mom's gaze, steady as the quiet before a storm. Time slowed, and then came the question that shattered the fragile calm. What's she going to do now? The years flooded back. The 8th birthday no one remembered to invite her friends to. The way her high school victories were brushed off like they didn't matter. College move-in day that was all about Nathan's baseball game, leaving her to figure things out alone. It was always clear she was a burden, never the heart of the family. Morgan placed her iced latte down, cool ceramic grounding her trembling fingers. She smoothed the napkin on her lap, steadying herself. Then a smile. Quiet. "Thanks for being honest, Mom," she said, voice calm but firm. It wasn't what her mom expected. No tears, no yelling, no fighting back. Her mom blinked, caught off guard. "Family peace," she said finally, "comes from knowing your place." "That's true," Morgan answered, never breaking eye contact until her mom looked away first. The rest of brunch was a fragile mask over the tension. Dad talked stocks, ironically, work Morgan had done. Nathan's eyes flicked to his phone again, probably checking bets. Mom eyed other diners, picking apart every detail like a queen guarding her throne. Morgan sat back, watching it all like a silent observer. Her dad hiding behind work to avoid feelings. Her mom using social rules as weapons to stay in control. Nathan, spoiled and entitled, enabled by their dysfunction. And Morgan, the smart one, used when needed and pushed aside when inconvenient. But this time felt different. Because beneath that calm, something was about to break loose. What would Morgan do next? The couple at the next table paid their bill and departed, the husband helping his wife with her coat in a gesture of genuine care. The contrast with my own family was stark and painful. What would it be like to be valued simply for existing, not for what services I could provide? When the check arrived, my father handed over his platinum card without glancing at the total. This card was connected to accounts I had established and maintained. The irony was not lost on me. "We expect you Tuesday for the design meeting," my mom stated as we prepared to leave. Not a request, but a command. "I will check my schedule," I replied non-committally. "Your work can surely spare you for family priorities," she pressed. I smiled again, the decision crystallizing within me. Family priorities? Yes, those are important to consider. We exited the restaurant together, maintaining the appearance of a unified family. My father immediately took a business call. My mom kissed my cheek without making contact. Nathan asked if he could borrow $5,000 until Friday, confirming my suspicions about his gambling debts. "I will see what I can do," I replied, knowing already what my answer would be. As I walked to my car alone, the spring sunshine felt different somehow. The weight I had carried for decades pressed down unbearably, but beneath it, a small seed of resolve had taken root. My mom's cruel words echoed, but now they felt like permission rather than punishment. If pity was the only reason for my inclusion, then perhaps it was time to remove myself from the equation entirely, and in doing so, I would finally establish the boundaries I had failed to create for 35 years. The 20-minute drive from Maison Bleu to my Cambridge apartment passed in a blur. Once inside my home, I methodically hung up my coat, placed my keys in their designated bowl, and walked to my home office. Only then, surrounded by my books and achievements, did I allow the emotional dam to break. Tears came silently at first, then in heaving sobs that bent me forward in my ergonomic desk chair. "You are lucky we even include you." The words replayed in an endless loop, 35 years of seeking approval from people constitutionally incapable of giving it. Decades of managing their financial affairs while being treated as an inconvenient obligation. After 15 minutes of raw emotional release, I straightened up, wiped my face, and opened my laptop. Grief would have its time, but first I needed information and a plan. I logged into the family financial dashboard I had created. The interface showed interconnected accounts, properties, investments, and credit lines. The Wilson family financial empire in digital form, all accessible through authentication protocols I had designed. My father had insisted on convenience over complexity, resulting in a system where one administrator could control everything through master access. That administrator was me. I began systematically documenting everything: account numbers, access credentials, transaction histories, property deeds, investment portfolios, credit lines, insurance policies, trust fund structures, tax filings. I created secure offline backups of all data, knowing that evidence might be necessary later. The picture that emerged confirmed what I already knew, but had ignored. Nathan had withdrawn over $200,000 in the past year from various accounts, most in cash transactions near casinos. My parents had spent nearly $1 million on luxury expenses while complaining about charitable donations I had automated from their accounts. The Vermont Lake House renovations had been contracted for $800,000 without proper permits or notification to me as partial owner. The library my grandmother had legally designated for me was scheduled for demolition next week. I opened a secure document and began outlining my options. As I cataloged the financial systems, I controlled the legal rights I possessed and the leverage available to me. A plan formed with crystalline clarity. For once, the very qualities my family dismissed as difficult would serve me well. My attention to detail, my technical knowledge, and my methodical approach to problem solving. First, I would need legal counsel. I contacted Jordan, my closest friend, who happened to be a corporate attorney. I need a referral for someone specializing in family financial disputes and property rights, I explained after briefly summarizing the situation. Vanessa Hargrove Jordan replied without hesitation. She handled my sister's complex divorce. Brilliant, ethical, and absolutely fearless. I will text you her contact information. Next, I made a comprehensive list of all family accounts requiring immediate attention. 1. 4 primary credit cards used by my parents. 2. 3 credit cards used exclusively by Nathan. 3. 2 joint checking accounts. 4. The main family investment portfolio. 5. Property management accounts for 5 properties including the Vermont Lake House. 6. Automatic bill payment systems for all properties. 7. Tax preparation access accounts. 8. Trust fund management interfaces. For each, I noted my legal relationship access level and potential actions. As the designated administrator, I had the right to suspend access pending security reviews, a provision my father had approved without reading the fine print years ago. I reviewed my grandmother Elisa's will regarding the Vermont property. The document clearly stated, "The library at the Lake Champlain property is bequeathed specifically to my granddaughter Morgan Blake for her lifetime use to remain intact as a place of learning and reflection." The planned renovation directly violated this legally binding provision. By 9 p.m., my emotions had stabilized and my plan had solidified. I would not act from anger, though anger was justified. I would not seek revenge, though the opportunity presented itself. The smell of warmed basil and garlic drifted through the air, mixing with the soft clatter of silverware against a ceramic plate. Morgan Blake sat quietly, her voice swallowed beneath her mom's sharp words. Disappointment settled on her chest like a heavy, cold shawl, silent but suffocating. The sterile dining room felt more like a courtroom than a home, every unspoken criticism echoing louder than any argument. The ceiling fan hummed low, masking the ache inside her, a pain carved from a childhood where love felt conditional and silence was the safer choice. Morgan always fought to meet impossible expectations: perfect grades, flawless manners, relentless success. But no matter how she pushed, her family's approval dripped away like water through cracked fingers. Did they even see her? Or was she just a shadow beneath their bright spotlight? She learned early that resilience paid the bills, but it didn't heal the heart. Years later, that cold evening echoed back as Morgan sat in her sleek Bryn Mawr Victorian townhouse, staring at a glowing screen. Her plan had formed with brutal clarity. The very traits they once dismissed as difficult, her attention to detail, her unshakable focus, her sharp mind, would finally work in her favor. She had contacted Vanessa Hargrove, a fearless attorney known for handling messy family disputes. After listing every family financial account, property, and trust fund under her control, Morgan realized something. She held the keys, not just in her hands, but in the power of the law, power her family never bothered to respect. That night, she didn't act out of anger, though it churned beneath the surface. She wasn't looking for revenge. She was done being the family's safety net, the silent scapegoat who cleaned up their messes. Instead, Morgan decided to stand firm. She would stop protecting them from the consequences of their own reckless decisions. It was time to assert her legal rights and reclaim her self-worth. Dinner was a blur, mechanical bites of pasta and salad while she ran through worst-case scenarios in her head. They would be furious, sure. They might plead or pretend to regret their actions. But 40 years of family history told her the truth. Nothing would change. Not really. At 11 p.m., she logged into the master financial dashboard with her administrator credentials. The first step: freeze the safety nets that enabled their reckless spending. Automatic payments on every family credit card were disabled, leaving the accounts active but vulnerable. Investment accounts were locked down behind dual authentication, cutting off easy access until new protocols were set. Overdraft protection disappeared from joint checking accounts. Suddenly, Nathan's secret credit card started bleeding out when payments failed. For the first time, consequences hit home. Then she drafted a firm email to the family attorney about the Vermont Lake House property, her grandmother Elisa's legacy. The legally protected library, a sanctuary of knowledge and reflection, was under threat from renovation plans she never approved. To Mr. Steinberg, she wrote, steady fingers pressing each key, "Work must cease immediately pending legal review." Her voice, once stifled by silence, now carried the weight of conviction. Morgan Blake was no longer just a daughter caught under impossible expectations. She was an architect of change, a woman claiming her space, redefining what family meant for her. The glass walls of approval might have shattered long ago, but her spirit refused to break. This was her moment, and she was finally free. Morgan Blake locked her phone and exhaled slowly, the faint smell of rain drifting through the open window. Outside, a dry leaf rustled across the cracked pavement, a quiet reminder that some things change whether we want them to or not. Just as she settled back, a new email alert blinked onto the screen. The sender, her estranged brother, the one she thought had checked out of the family drama years ago. Her chest tightened. The hum of the night felt heavier now, filled with a sudden surge of doubt and vulnerability. Could it be? Had he been battling the same silent storms all along? This message wasn't just a random ping. It shifted the entire landscape of their fractured family dynamic. Maybe the real power wasn't with the loudest voice or the one who always took the blame, but with the one who learned to survive in silence. Morgan's steady walls wavered. Everything she thought she knew about loyalty, pain, and strength in her family suddenly felt incomplete. After hitting send on a cold, firm email to her parents and brother, Morgan logged out of every account tied to the family's finances. She disabled every safety net they'd relied on, shutting down reckless spending and cutting off access like a surgeon removing a harmful tumor. Tonight, she wasn't the family's secret caretaker anymore. She was reclaiming her life, piece by piece. There was no victory dance, no roaring applause, just the quiet hum of a new beginning. Morning came early, bringing with it a strange stillness and a lighter breath. Instead of the usual chaos, Morgan poured herself an iced latte, stretched away tension, and breathed through 5 minutes of meditation. Simple acts anchoring her to herself, not the constant weight of family expectations. Her phone lit up with missed calls and texts, constant reminders of a storm she wasn't ready to face. She ignored every one. Instead, she called Vanessa Hargrove's office, the legal line she'd drawn to defend her ground. An emergency consultation was set for 9:30. Every document needed, every loose thread carefully gathered. Morgan wasn't just fighting for an inheritance, she was fighting for her self-worth, and for the first time in a long time, that fight felt hers alone. The early morning buzz of the city seeped through the glass walls of Vanessa Hargrove's sleek office on the 14th floor. Outside, a soft breeze stirred the last rustle of autumn leaves, carrying that crisp scent of rain lingering from overnight. Inside, Vanessa's calm voice broke through the quiet, steady, and deliberate. "I've reviewed everything. Your legal footing is solid." Her gray suit was flawless, her handshake steady. But there was something beneath her polished exterior, a flicker of hesitation Morgan couldn't ignore. The air suddenly felt colder, the sterile room shrinking around her. Vanessa reached toward a file drawer. Then, sharp, the phone rang. The sound cut clean through the tension. What news could be so urgent? It slices through this fragile calm. Light shifted across the office floor, shadows lengthening, almost wrapping the room in silence. Morgan's heart beat faster, the weight of every unspoken accusation, every family secret pressing down. Was this the moment everything would finally unravel? Morgan's mind raced as she clenched the edge of the leather chair. Today wasn't about charm or small talk. It was survival. She had spent hours before the meeting, changing passwords, locking down accounts, and pulling cash from savings. Every move was a safeguard against the storm she knew was coming. No more silent sacrifices. No more walking on eggshells with a family that never really saw her. "This is just the start," Vanessa said, scanning Morgan's documents. "The will clearly protects your rights to the Vermont property. Your access to financial accounts was authorized. Legally, you're clean." Morgan exhaled slowly, steadying herself. "I want 3 things," she said, voice steady. "First, full protection over the lake house. Second, to be completely out of the family's financial web, but not just the scapegoat anymore. And third, immunity from any false accusations, especially related to Nathan's gambling." Vanessa nodded firmly. "All reasonable. I'll draft legal notices today. For the property, formal resignation papers, and documentation on Nathan's withdrawals. You want to be shielded before they even try to turn this around." "How fast can this move?" Morgan asked, tension barely held back. "This afternoon," Vanessa replied without hesitation. The clock ticked, the city hum felt distant but relentless. Morgan knew the fight ahead wouldn't be clean or quiet, but for the first time, it was hers to own. The cold edge of Morgan's father's voice still echoed in her mind. She flashed back to that night years ago, the faint scent of her mom's perfume mixing with the sterile air of the Victorian townhouse study. The clink of silverware broke the tense silence at dinner. Morgan's younger brother laughed easily, soaking up every compliment. Meanwhile, Morgan sat frozen, swallowed by the heavy weight of impossible expectations. The sharp taste of an iced latte lingered on her tongue, the sting of judgment burning deep. How had she spent years chasing approval from a family that never truly saw her? That night hadn't just burned in her memory, it fueled every choice she made now. After leaving Vanessa's office, Morgan headed straight to a new bank, the kind her family would never use. She opened a fresh account, carefully moved most of her money away, and left only the bare minimum in the old family-linked accounts. By noon, her phone buzzed relentlessly, 30 missed calls. One voicemail stood out, her father's voice, cold and demanding. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Fix this immediately." For the first time, she felt untouchable. At 1 p.m., Morgan sat across from Dr. Caroline Reed. "How are you holding up?" the therapist asked gently. Morgan hesitated. Relief clashed with guilt. "I know I need this," she said quietly, "but it's hard to shake off decades of programmed shame." Dr. Reed nodded. "Your family installed those buttons to stop you from ever saying no. This is your first real boundary." The weight of that hit Morgan hard, yet a strange calm settled inside her. The rest of the day was a blur of signatures, legal jargon, and cold, deliberate decisions. By 5, Morgan had filed an emergency injunction to stop the Vermont lake house renovations, the family's sprawling lake house that felt more like a cage. She officially stepped down as the family's financial administrator, cutting every last tie she could find. Certified letters went out to banks, a legal hold was placed on her brother Nathan's hidden gambling withdrawals, and a security company changed the locks on her apartment, installing new cameras. She looked at Vanessa, the lawyer, her voice steady but wary. "What now?" Vanessa didn't flinch. "Expect escalation, then negotiation." Morgan swallowed hard. This was no longer a quiet rebellion. This was a battle she was ready to fight. She wasn't just breaking free anymore. She was building her own life, on her own terms. Morgan Blake sank back into her worn couch, the soft hum of the city filtering through her window like a distant whisper. Her phone buzzed, a notification lighting up the screen. It wasn't from her brother Nathan like she expected. It was a message from her mom. Her thumb hovered, heart tightened. Then she opened it. The words spilled out, raw and unexpected. A confession, a crack in the armor she never thought she'd see. Her mom, fragile and honest, shared her own scars. Years of emotional neglect, battles with insecurity Morgan had never imagined. Suddenly, everything Morgan believed about their family started to shift. Was her fight to prove herself just one side of a much deeper story? Morgan leaned back, the faint scent of rain drifting in from the cracked window. The gentle rustle of leaves outside felt like a quiet invitation to rethink the past. Could empathy grow from the rubble of resentment? Could she find space for both anger and understanding? She hadn't expected this. Not now. Not ever. Her phone buzzed again, this time with Nathan's name flashing aggressively. The weight of his threats lingered. Legal action, veiled warnings, demands to fix this. But she didn't flinch. She had already taken steps her family would never dare understand. Locked down her accounts, cut off access, even contacted her building security and police to keep herself safe. That night, Morgan did something she hadn't done in years. She erased the family calendar from her phone, deleted reminders of birthdays and anniversaries that once held her captive to their approval. She unsubscribed from her mom's country club newsletters, clipped away at the threads of their control. The living room felt different now, less cold. She placed artwork there, bold, unapologetic, a small rebellion that tasted like freedom. By morning, Nathan's calls came from new numbers, his voice laced with desperation. "I need 30,000 by tomorrow, or else." "Or else what?" Morgan asked, voice steady but unreadable. "Casino markers," he whispered after a long pause. "These aren't people you want to mess with." Her gut twisted, but her answer was clear. "Your gambling debts aren't my problem." Morgan felt something complex rising inside her, a storm of anger, but also grief. The twisted roots of their family ordeal tangled more than she'd thought. She was no longer just breaking free. She was unraveling layers, building strength, piece by painful piece. Morgan Blake stared at her resignation letter one last time. The weight of years pressed into every word. Then her phone buzzed. A voicemail. Not from her dad, as she'd expected. The voice was familiar, but colder. Her estranged brother. "I did it," he said plainly. "The payment system, sabotaged, to force you all to face the truth." Silence crackled around her. Rain tapped softly against the window. The scent of wet earth filled the room, a strange calm before the storm. Morgan's heart pounded. Betrayal spiraled inside her, twisting trust that was already cracked. She'd spent years building walls, protecting herself from the emotional neglect and impossible expectations. But this cut deeper. Her voice almost broke as she whispered, You did this to us?" Every carefully controlled breath hitched. The family fracture she thought she knew suddenly looked like an abyss no apology could bridge. Dad's fury had been vicious. Locked out, blocked from the accounts he thought were his lifeline. Nathan's rage wasn't subtle either. He accused her of tearing the family apart. But Morgan wasn't the one destroying things. They were destroying her, piece by piece. The calls kept coming. Legal threats, ultimatums, twisted pleas disguised as concern. Mom tried a half-hearted apology, a shallow olive branch that barely masked her true intent. Control. Morgan saw through it, clear as day. She didn't respond. Instead, she cut the ties bit by bit, locked accounts, stopped construction on the lake house. She erased their calendar reminders, birthdays, anniversaries, things that once chained her to their approval. She replaced cold silence in her home with bold artwork, vibrant colors that finally felt like freedom. By the time the dust settled, Morgan was no longer just surviving. She was rebuilding, stronger, clearer, and fiercely independent. Her family's shadows still loomed, but now she held the light. Could a family broken by silence and lies ever heal? Maybe. But for now, Morgan chose herself. Morgan Blake's phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't another threat. It wasn't an angry demand. It was silence on the other end, a silence that felt heavier than any words. She leaned back, eyes closed, mind drifting to a cold Saturday morning years ago. The scent of burnt ice latte lingered in the air, sharp and bitter, like the weight of her mom's clipped voice slicing through the hush of the Victorian townhouse kitchen. "You have to be perfect," her mom had said, voice thin and sharp, the flickering kitchen light casting cold shadows over the chipped china. Morgan could still feel the pressure in her chest, the tightness after missing a goal at school, the silence that followed. Deafening. No hugs, no kind words, just a crushing weight of unspoken disappointment. It was in that silence, that cold kitchen, where Morgan's shield began. She became resilient, tough, closed off, protecting herself from the impossible expectations and the quiet emotional neglect that seeped into every corner of her family's polished world. But now, years later, the walls she'd built were being challenged again. Each day without handling their finances, without absorbing their criticism, was like coming back from a long illness. Strength didn't return all at once. It came slowly, steadily, through every legal battle and piece of emotional rubble. The weeks blurred. The so-called brunch incident triggered storms she'd only seen from afar. Nathan, the brother who once thrived in the spotlight, crashed hardest. Without access to family money, his debts came roaring in. The luxury condo sold. The Mercedes was gone. The gambling markers? Dad had to pay tens of thousands to stop even bigger fallout. Her parents weren't immune either. Credit card suspensions led to humiliating declined charges at their elite social gatherings. Dad, who always delegated financial details, had to call banks himself, shattering their image of control. Mom's country club privileges? Suspended after missed payments. The quiet gossip at the club murmuring like leaves rustling in a cold wind. And the Vermont lake house renovation, the crown jewel of their family's summer dreams, became a legal nightmare. County inspectors showed up, sniffing out violations like bloodhounds. The project was frozen. Fines loomed. Through it all, Morgan drew lines. Clear, firm boundaries. Vanessa, her trusted ally, managed contact. Messages came in neat, measured summaries. Never raw, never overwhelming. Morgan changed her phone and email, sharing only with people she trusted. Without the family's constant demands pulling her down, her work thrived. Her tech entrepreneurship blossomed. For once, she owned her time, her space, herself. But could healing ever come to a family fractured by silence, betrayal, and control? Morgan didn't have the answer yet. What she did know was this: she was no longer their prisoner. She was fighting back, piece by piece, forging a new kind of strength. In the quiet moments, when the rain tapped softly against her window and memories threatened to steal her breath, Morgan chose something new. Her own worth, her own story, no matter the cost. Freed from constant interruptions for tech support and financial management, I completed a major project ahead of schedule, earning recognition from senior management. I accepted a speaking opportunity at a financial technology conference, something I had previously declined due to family obligations that inevitably arose whenever I had important commitments. Sophia and Jordan formed a protective circle around me, vetting invitations and providing sanctuary when memories became overwhelming. Other friends I had neglected while prioritizing family needs reconnected, surprised and pleased by my newfound availability. "You seem different, my friend," Alexis commented during a dinner 6 weeks after the brunch. "More present somehow. I am learning to exist without constant vigilance," I explained. Without anticipating criticism or demands, around the 2-month mark, my brother escalated his attempts to reach me. He appeared at my workplace, but security had been briefed and denied him entry. He left handwritten notes at my old apartment, which the property manager forwarded to me. The messages grew increasingly desperate as his financial situation deteriorated. "Please help me. I know I have a problem. I need your expertise to fix this mess." One note read for the first time. He acknowledged his gambling addiction, though primarily as leverage to regain my assistance. My parents adopted different strategies. My father attempted to use business connections to pressure me, having colleagues casually mentioned family concerns during professional interactions. My mom spread strategic misinformation among her social circle, portraying herself as the worried parent of a daughter having a breakdown. "We are giving her space during this difficult time," she told mutual acquaintances, recasting my boundary enforcement as mental instability. 3 months after the brunch, I received an unexpected communication. The Vermont town clerk contacted me directly about the Lake House property. Morgan Blake sat alone in her sleek Bryn Mawr townhouse, the bluish glow of her laptop screen casting shadows across her face. Outside, the spring rain whispered against the windows, the scent thick in the air. She was scrolling through emails when her phone buzzed, an unexpected message, a voice note from her estranged brother, Nathan. Her heart skipped. She hesitated, fingers trembling over the play button. Then his voice, soft and shaky, filled the room. "They made me do it. Dad and Mom pushed the legal stuff. They wanted to force your hand, break you down." Morgan froze. The walls around her felt colder, heavier. This wasn't just a fight over the lake house anymore. It was a carefully crafted betrayal. Family loyalty twisted into manipulation. Who was really the enemy here? The parents who placed impossible expectations on her? The brother caught in the middle? Or the illusion of family itself? Her mind raced. Had her resilience been their target all along? Just months ago, Morgan's life was spiraling under the weight of emotional neglect and demands she never asked for. She'd been the successful one, yet emotionally hollow, fighting to prove her worth beyond their suffocating approval. Nathan's struggle with addiction and their parents' social maneuvering cut deeper than any business deal. She remembered the calls, the notes left on her door, the chilling moment when the town clerk informed her about the lake house being pushed for sale behind her back. The $7 million offer dangled like a threat, not a lifeline. Morgan didn't respond to their ultimatums, but Nathan's voice now cracked through that cold divide, revealing truths no legal document ever could. She gathered herself, breathing in the rain's cool scent, the faint rustle of leaves outside mingling with the storm inside. Therapy and meditation had given her tools. But this was something else. Could she reclaim her story? Separate love from control? Find strength in the fracture? Morgan pressed play again, letting that fragile confession sink in. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought in courtrooms or boardrooms. They're fought inside the walls of a broken home. And this time, Morgan Blake wasn't walking away. Not without rewriting the rules. I took a pottery class I had always been interested in but had dismissed as impractical. I dated casually for the first time in years, no longer worried about family interrogations about potential partners. 5 months into this new reality, my mom attempted a different approach. She appeared unannounced at a charity event I attended, calculating correctly that I would not create a scene in public. "You look well," she said, intercepting me near the restrooms. She had lost weight, and her designer outfit seemed last season rather than her usual cutting-edge style. "Thank you," I replied neutrally. "I need to return to my table." "This separation has gone on long enough," she continued as if I had not spoken. "Your father and I are prepared to forget recent unpleasantness. Nathan is doing better. The family needs to reunite." "I am not available for that discussion," I stated calmly. "We are still your family," she insisted, a familiar edge entering her voice. "You cannot simply erase 35 years of history." "I am not erasing history," I replied. "I am honoring it by finally responding appropriately to it." I walked away before she could respond, rejoining my friends at our table. Later, I learned she had left the event immediately after our encounter. The 6th month brought an unexpected development. Nathan contacted Vanessa directly requesting a mediated meeting without our parents involved. After consultation with Dr. Reed, I cautiously agreed to a short meeting at Vanessa's office with specific parameters established in advance. Nathan arrived looking substantially different than the polished executive image he had previously maintained. His designer clothes were replaced by department store business casual. The expensive watch was gone. Most notably, the entitled confidence had vanished from his demeanor. "Thank you for seeing me," he began once we were seated in Vanessa's conference room. "I know you have no reason to trust anything I say. Why did you request this meeting?" Morgan Blake's fingers tremble slightly as she traces the sobriety chip across the polished table. The weight of months of unspoken truths presses down on her chest like a fog. Outside the window, the faint rustle of autumn leaves blends with distant traffic, a muted soundtrack to her racing mind. Can she really trust this new honesty? Or is it just another fragile mask waiting to crack? The chip gleams cold and real beneath her touch, but her heart hesitates. She's spent years building walls around herself, strong, guarded walls. Now, someone she barely recognized was asking her to believe in change. Was this the moment everything could finally shift? Or just another illusion dressed as hope? Nathan looked different. No slick suits, no easy smirk. Just a man stripped down to the raw truth. "Thank you for seeing me," he said, eyes steady but vulnerable. "I know I broke your trust. I've been sober 6 months." The words hung heavy in the quiet room. He placed the chip on the table like a treaty, his voice steady but low. "Hitting bottom was necessary. When you stopped enabling us, everything fell apart. But maybe that collapse was what we needed." His confession wasn't a plea. It was an offering. "I'm not here for forgiveness. I wanted you to know you forced change, at least in me." Morgan felt something inside her shift, something soft, uncertain. 30 minutes passed like seconds as Nathan unfolded a story of growth, struggle, accountability. No demands, no pressure, just truths laid bare. Before he left, he said something that cut through her defenses. "I always knew you were the strongest one. I just never understood that your kind of strength mattered." Her parents, however, stayed stuck in their roles. When word of the meeting leaked, their response was cold and calculated. Her father's formal letter was a blueprint for control, reunification, but only if she gave up her independence. The voicemail from her mom twisted reality, brushing the past under a polite rug. "Now that tempers have cooled," it began, but Morgan knew better. The undercurrents were still there, expectations, demands, old wounds. She stared at the chip again. In her hand, it felt like a crossroads. Could she forge a new path? Or would the past keep pulling her back? No easy answers. Just one truth. This time, she had a choice. And for the first time, it felt like it was hers to make. Morgan Blake stood alone on the porch of the now empty lake house. The crisp autumn air touched her skin, cool and sharp, as leaves tumbled around her feet in restless swirls. The scent of damp earth and wood smoke drifted faintly, mixing with the soft rustle of branches overhead. Her phone buzzed, sudden and sharp, cutting through the quiet. She glanced down. An unknown number. Her fingers froze. Should she open it? The sky darkened, the last light bleeding out, leaving a weighty silence. Then it came, the distant crunch of footsteps on gravel. Someone, or something, approaching. Was this the past returning, or a new chapter about to begin? Morgan's breath caught. The chill deepened. Months had passed since that tense brunch where everything cracked wide open. The legal battles, the painstaking dividing of the lake house and finances, were finally settled. Morgan's career as a tech entrepreneur was soaring, and her circle of friends had grown into a real source of strength. The future? Still a mystery. But now, that unknown felt like freedom, not fear. Toxic family ties weren't chains to bear anymore. They were patterns to shatter. Words that once cut deep, "You're lucky we even include you," had transformed. They were keys opening doors she never knew needed unlocking. A year later, Morgan celebrated her 36th birthday differently. No awkward dinners where her voice was lost under expectations. Instead, her friend Sophia curated a perfect seafood feast. Jordan surprised her with a cake made from her real favorite flavor. Around the table were people who saw her, not the version her family demanded. Therapy with Dr. Reed moved from crisis mode to true healing. Together, they peeled back years of conditioning. Morgan learned that worth isn't granted by others. It's built from inside. Still, healing wasn't a straight road. Some days old wounds throbbed with guilt, and the ache for family approval clawed back. "Those aren't failures," Dr. Reed said gently. "They're just part of the process." Morgan looked out again at the fading sky. The message still unread. The footsteps drawing closer. Her heart pounded. Not from fear, but from knowing whatever came next, she would choose it on her terms. Because now, finally, she was free. The conference hall buzzed with a low hum, distant conversations blending with the flicker of fluorescent lights overhead. Morgan's heart picked up pace, her breath catching as she locked eyes with the man she hadn't seen in over a year. Her father. The air between them was thick, years of silent resentments and buried truths hanging like a storm ready to break. His face showed the weight of time, lines etched deeper than before, silver hair now tousled, pride clashing with a flicker of regret. "Morgan," he said quietly, voice rough but controlled. "Richard," she replied evenly, the distance in her tone deliberate. She noticed his glance flick to her conference badge. "Financial security panel tomorrow." "You're presenting," he noted. "Yeah." A long pause stretched, tense and heavy. His next words stumbled out, awkward and false. "Your brother's doing better. 1 year sober." Morgan's eyes narrowed. Nathan kept their fragile peace carefully hidden, away from their parents' reach. Then he said it, the expected line. "Your mom wants to hear from you." She held his gaze, voice steady. That would mean facing old patterns and changing for real. His posture stiffened. "Families disagree. Holding grudges won't fix anything." "No," she said quietly. "This isn't about grudges. It's about patterns that hurt. We didn't just want things. We needed safety." Before she could add more, the loudspeaker crackled, snapping their attention. The announcement sliced through the tension, leaving her question hanging in the air. Was this moment the start of genuine healing, or just another wall built between them? Morgan's pulse thundered. Whatever came next, the choice was hers. Morgan stared at him, her voice steady. Material things without respect don't fill the emptiness. The tension hung thick between them. Suddenly, a colleague appeared, breaking the uneasy silence with a warm greeting. Morgan's father nodded curtly and turned away. The same cold dismissal she'd known since childhood. But something was different this time. His disapproval no longer sank into her like a stone. Instead, she saw it clearly. Like a broken script she was done acting out. The long battle over the Vermont lake house finally ended in court. Permits stalled renovations, and her parents offered to buy her out. After talking it over with Vanessa, she agreed to terms that honored both her share and the house's rising value. She took part of the money and bought a small cottage on a quiet New Hampshire lake. The house was filled with light, glass walls facing the water, shelves built for books everywhere. It became her sanctuary, where silence wasn't judgment, and she could finally hear her own thoughts. Her brother, Nathan, and she started meeting for iced latte every month. Boundaries kept old family shadows away. Nathan was sober, working hard on himself, building real accountability, not just luck or privilege. One day, he admitted softly, "I dream about gambling almost every night." Morgan asked, "How do you fight those urges?" He smiled sadly. "Therapist says it takes years for those old habits to fade." Life wasn't perfect, but for once, the storms were quieter. Could healing finally be more than a dream? Morgan Blake never took her past lightly. The lies, the manipulation, the version of herself she'd fought so hard to leave behind. That level of self-awareness marked her turning point. Their relationship, her and her mom's, was never going to be simple. But after Morgan's confrontation with her dad, things shifted. Just enough. A fragile respect began to emerge where only silence had lived before. Yet Morgan's mom wasn't ready to change. Instead, she launched covert attacks, messages sent through friends, perfectly timed social media posts, even staged encounters that whispered the same old story, never admitting any harm. Morgan met each one with firm but calm boundaries. No anger, just resolve. When they crossed paths again 18 months later at a mutual friend's wedding, Morgan stayed polite, keeping distance. The wedding buzz blended with clinking glasses and soft conversations. Then her mom approached, champagne flute in hand like armor, eyes sharp. "You look thin," she said. Concern or criticism? Morgan could tell. "Eating properly?" "I'm fine, thanks," Morgan answered evenly, refusing to dive into old traps. "This has gone on long enough," her mom stated, voice low, heavy. "People are talking. It's bad for the family." The words stung, focused on appearance rather than connection. Morgan's breath caught. This was the same old game. "I'm not estranged," Morgan said calmly but firmly. "I'm building healthy boundaries. That means I'm not cutting off my mom. I'm choosing respect or nothing." Her mom's wounded tone flickered, decades practiced. "You've always been difficult," she sighed, falling back on old scripts. "No," Morgan said, steady now. "I've always been clear about my needs. That's not difficult. It just doesn't fit what you want." The moment stretched in the air, noise swirling around them, old stories clashing with new truths. Morgan's guarded heart wavered, just for a moment. Then she saw it, something across the room, a glance so quick, so charged it froze the night for her. What secret hid in that fleeting sight? And would it shatter the fragile peace they'd barely begun to build? The answer hung there, between the sparkle of wedding lights and the sharp bite of champagne. Waiting. Morgan closed her eyes. The scent of damp earth and pine from her lake house in New Hampshire flooded her senses. She felt the cool, weathered wood of the dock beneath her fingertips. The soft lapping of water melded with the distant call of loons, echoing across the fading light. The sunset stretched across the sky, gold, crimson, a swirl of warmth and bittersweet sorrow. Her father's distant voice echoed in her mind, a reminder of unmet expectations and the quiet ache of emotional neglect that had shaped her stubborn resilience. How long could she carry this weight? Was there a way out beyond these family shadows? Their last encounter ended quietly, with no answers, no fights, just silence. Like with her father, people can change, but not everyone wants to. Some cling to old stories, keeping their control, even if it costs connection. 2 years after that brunch that shifted everything, Morgan sat journaling by the lake. Her pages told a story of messy healing, non-linear, complicated. Certain dates still hit like old wounds, holidays tangled with memories she wished she could forget. Dreams sometimes dragged her into the past, vivid and sharp. But beneath it all, something new had emerged. Not perfection, but progress. She learned family isn't just blood, it's respect, care, the choice to be present. The people she'd chosen to surround herself with showed up in ways her birth family never did. Authentic, consistent, and loving. Boundaries weren't walls, they were lifelines. Setting them created room for real connection and protection when needed. She'd uncovered a painful truth. Money can hide emotional manipulation. Gifts on the surface masked cold neglect underneath, forcing dependency disguised as generosity. True freedom wasn't just financial, it was emotional. To heal, she had to face the raw facts, not cling to illusions. Naming the abuse for what it was gave her power. No longer would she shrink to fit their narrative. "You're lucky we even include you." Those words no longer stung. They barely landed. She had learned to respond with calm strength, refusing the old cycles of belittlement. And above all, her worth wasn't up for debate. It wasn't something anyone else could give or take away. Morgan looked up, the lake glowing beneath the twilight. This was her new truth. Fragile, yes, but real, and she was finally free. Under the vast spread of stars, Morgan Blake sits alone by the quiet lake, the cool breeze brushing against her skin like a gentle reminder of change. The scent of rain lingers in the air, mixing with the soft rustle of leaves as she closes her journal. For years, her heart carried the weight of silence and unmet expectations. Words left unsaid, love withheld, and a family that measured her worth by what she could do, not who she was. Can you feel the sting of being invisible in your own family? The ache when approval is always just out of reach. Morgan knows that pain all too well. But tonight, under this endless sky, something shifts. The heavy chains forged by emotional neglect begin to dissolve. For the first time, she embraces the truth. Her value has never depended on anyone else's approval. The night hums softly around her, a sanctuary where old wounds begin to heal and real freedom takes root. The approval I chased for decades. It was never about me. It came wrapped in conditions, loyalty, usefulness, never unconditional love. Real security. It's not granted by family titles or fortune. It's born inside, in living true to myself, not their script. Darkness settles over the lake as stars blink into existence, each one a blank page of tomorrow's story. Some family ties might stay distant, protecting my peace. Others might grow strong again, not out of obligation, but respect. Either way, this is victory. The path from that cold brunch to this evening has been brutal and real. The harshest words spoken once cut deep, but now fuel my freedom. When my mom said, "You're lucky we even include you," those words hit me like a slap. But in that moment, I found release. I stopped shrinking to fit their narrative. Have you ever had to walk away from love, or reshape it, to protect yourself? Have you finally found your voice after years of silence? This journey to self-worth is messy and tough, but it's the only way forward. Tonight, with the lake calm beneath the stars, I am free, and so can you be.